water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years passed and my brother and I discovered the new Avatar, an airbender named Aang. And although his airbending skills are great, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. But I believe Aang can save the world.
Previously on Avatar.
Appa is missing. We hope to find him in Ba Sing Se.
Professor Zay, head of anthropology at Ba Sing Se University. This library is said to contain a vast collection of knowledge.
Firebenders lose their bending during a solar eclipse!
We've got to get this information to the Earth King at Ba Sing Se.
Hey!
What are you doing firebending your tea?
So the old guy had some hot tea. Big deal.
He heated it himself.
Those guys are firebenders.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Avatar Vlogs. This is episode 34, The City of Walls and Secrets. Well, it didn't take the entire season to get here, but we're finally at Ba Sing Se, at what was set up way back in the first season. We finally have got to Ba Sing Se and we're seeing it in all its glory, and it's magnificent, but it does have its secrets. So Team Avatar, alongside Zuko, Iroh, and Jet, have finally made it to Ba Sing Se. They finally got into the city. They're prepared to give the information to the Earth King. But just as they've gotten to the place they've been trying so hard to get to, they find their troubles are only just beginning, as the city of Ba Sing Se is kind of unlike anything they've ever seen up till this point. It's big, it's massive, it's dense, and as the title suggests, there's walls and there's secrets. So the city, despite being, full of refugees from the war, there's very much a hush-hush tone for how things are kept in Ba Sing Se. The city, not surprisingly, they very much do not want to mention the war that's going on. They want to keep things quiet so that the people in the city aren't sent into a state of panic, or so the economy doesn't collapse, and consequently, Team Avatar gets a little frustrated because they're doing their best to try and help people, and all the officials of the city are under very strict watch from a secret police known as the Dai Li, to just not mention this. In fact, they're also given a bit of an escort, a woman named Judy, who is very creepy, by the way. This is one of the creepiest characters in the entire show, who is watching them constantly and always kind of giving a don't talk about it to people who they ask questions to. However, one night, the gang gets a bit of an opportunity to meet the Earth King at a party for his pet bear.
You mean platypus bear?
No, it just says bear.
Certainly you mean his pet skunk bear.
Or his armadillo bear? Gopher bear?
Just bear.
This place is weird.
Have I mentioned yet that I love this show? So Team Avatar figures this is a good opportunity to meet the king, but things are proving a little more difficult than they initially thought. As at the party, they're encountered by a man named Long Fang, played by Clancy Brown. That's right, Mr. Krabs himself, who is going to serve as the secondary antagonist for the rest of the season, basically reiterating what I said. The city is set up as a place of utopia, and everything about the war is to be kept hush-hush to maintain this illusion that flat out doesn't exist. And the team is threatened to be kept quiet should they try to... I'm sorry, I'm really losing my mind right now. They are kept quiet so that they won't try to spread panic under the threat of potentially not finding Appa ever again. Not that they really know where Appa is, but it's still a threat. So from this point on, Team Avatar is going to have to lay low and keep quiet and just wait their time until they can potentially talk to the Earth King in 6 to 8 weeks. And on the flip side, we have Iroh and Zuko, who have now made their way into the city alongside Jet. But unfortunately, Iroh made a very stupid decision in which he used firebending to heat up a cup of tea, and now Jet's onto them. Jet knows that something is up, and, still being a little bitter about things, is trying to expose Zuko and Iroh, who got a job at a tea shop. And unfortunately, this is now alienating Jet from not only his quest to restart his life, but also his friends who stuck with him up till this point. And there's not a ton of detail in this episode. I guess what works about this episode is it does set up, I guess I like kind of I'm a little torn on this episode, actually, because on one hand, I like the fact we finally got to see Ba Sing Se, and I like seeing how this city operates. Now, I don't live in a particularly large city, so whenever I go to a large city that's in excess of 1 million people, it is kind of fascinating for me, at least, to see how an area that's much more dense and tight and full of people has to live compared to the rest of the world where I'm more used to things. And Aang even kind of makes a comment about how he never visited Ba Sing Se when he was a kid, well, before he got frozen, that is, because it was just so different from how the monks always taught him how to live. Like, the city is divided into 3 zones by walls. There's the lower ring, which is basically where the poor are kept, and, you know, the marketplaces and the people who are craftsmen, that's where they have to stay. The middle ring has stuff like education and the universities and the bankers. And then the upper ring, which is where the royal family is kept and the most important citizens. And in an attempt to keep Team Avatar quiet, they're given a house in the upper ring. And already that does seem that's very accurate. You know, it's kind of obvious commentary about how places that always seem the most perfect from the outset always have a bit of an underlying sense of secrecy and conspiracy and dread that everyone knows exists, but they can't really talk about because sometimes that's just the way the world works. And in many respects, I normally don't like when this type of thing is put into fantasy, because we watch fantasy to escape this kind of nonsense we see in the real world. But here it works well enough. They don't linger on it too long. There's just enough of a sense of things are not quite right here, but it's never to the point where it's suffocating or annoying. And I'm kind of praising the show for keeping it on the low in that regard. Plus, on a side note, it's just kind of cool to see Clancy Brown in this show as a villain. Like, his voice does stick out like a sore thumb, and the character is not necessarily the most interesting, but he is kind of a necessary character. This is kind of the episode that needed to take a bit of a step from the basic, you know, the good people against the bad people type story, and have it where sometimes even on the good side of things, there's these layers of not necessary evils, but there's corruption going on within itself that's also not good. But how do you weigh it against the greater evil in this regard? And the show doesn't go too far into these types of questions, but kind of to show you, Jet is captured at one point. He picks a fight with Zuko to try and trick him into using his firebending abilities, and he's arrested by the Dai Li, which are like the cultural police or the secret police, whatever, the Gestapo, whatever you want to call them. And he's taken to a room where he's hypnotized into thinking there's no such thing as war in Ba Sing Se. And it is kind of a grim, dark scene, and it's going to have a great payoff later. But as a kid, when I first saw that, I was kind of floored I was really witnessing this. Like, it's just such a tonal shift compared to the rest of the show and how the world has been set up. So this is an episode that, again, is good. I'm only kind of torn because I don't really know how much I kind of want to see these types of themes in my fantasy, but they are necessary, and it is, for the most part, done pretty well. And there's not really a Sokka's quote of the day on this, although I do like when they're figuring out how to sneak into a party, and he suggests dressing up Momo as a ghost. It's like probably the most outlandish thing he's said, but I couldn't quite find the humor in it. So yeah, we're skipping that today. But with that said, the next episodes after this are also going to be a great set of bangers. I'll leave you on this rather creepy ending to the episode, and till next time, onwards and upwards, my friends.
You can't keep the truth from all these people. They have to know.
I'll tell them. I'll make sure everyone knows.
Until now, you've been treated as our honored guest. But from now on, you will be watched every moment by Dai Li agents. If you mention the war to anyone, you will be expelled from the city. I understand you've been looking for your bison. It would be quite a shame if you were not able to complete your quest. Now Judy will show you home.
Come with me, please.
What happened to Judy?
I'm Judy. I'll be your host as long as you're in our wonderful city.